Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Lessons for Life live stream. I am your host, Eleni Anastas, and I'm also joined by my talented friend and co-host, Jim Kunkel. How are you tonight, Jim?
Eleni, I'm doing awesome. I've been so looking forward to this topic tonight, which is a powerful one. We're going to be talking about creation. We all can be creators.
Yes. Well, the reality is we all are creators in our lives, but we'll talk about how to know when you're creating in the direction of the life that you want or the one that you don't want. And I knew this had to be the last chapter in my book, Finding Purpose in the Pain, because for me personally, it was one of the biggest life lessons that came out of the trauma of the school assault that turned my world upside down. That was the catalyst for my book. And I realized, I always have been creating in my life. I just wasn't fully cognizant of it. And it took something like that to make me realize all of us, creation has always been an active part in my life, as in yours and everyone else that could be listening. But again, it's how aware are you? And are you using your abilities to create in the direction that you want or the direction that you don't want? What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, before we get into that, let's talk about My Reinvented Life. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, a bestseller. Please get a copy of it. And as Eleni mentioned, that creation is her last chapter, very powerful chapter. This book has been a life changer for me. I use it regularly. I keep it very close at hand at all times. But Eleni, back to what you were saying, I completely 100% agree with you. I think it's so important when we think of creation is that, when it comes to living your best life and experiencing life in its fullest, that everything is in your hands when it comes to your dreams, your reality, your creative potential. It's all in your own hands.
Yes. Now, of course, there are always going to be external circumstances beyond our control, things that happen to us or to the world, the pandemic, things that go on. But always, always, it's on us on how we choose to respond. And to me, when you don't embrace that you are the biggest creator in your own life, then you're kind of giving your power away. And I feel so blessed. I was raised in my maternal grandparents' home with my mom. And my mother and my grandparents always said, you can be and do whatever you want to be, Eleni. It's going to take a lot of hard work, but it will be worth it. So I didn't realize at such a young age, they really were instilling in me that you are a purposeful creator in your own life, should you choose to be. And again, emphasis on purposeful. So when you really put your mind to it and you get focused on what you want and take the deliberate action to make it happen.
It's so true. So true. Right before the broadcast, we were talking about Dr. Wayne Dwyer, and one of his teaching quotes for me that really stuck with me for years is that flowing water never decays. And when you think about that, it really is so profound, but it's just so deep in its meaning. It's so simplistic in its statement, but such a powerful meaning for life and everything that we do.
Yeah, because when you own that, you have that we're 100% responsible for our own lives. We are absolutely 100% responsible. Again, I'm not talking about those external circumstances that are beyond your control, that you didn't ask for, that you didn't deserve. I'm talking about what you choose to do with what happens and deliberate action that you can take. Because then regardless of what goes on externally, you can pick yourself back up again. I'll never forget my grandfather sharing with me. It's one of my favorite lessons. He always had his pearls of wisdom. And he sat me down one day and he said, Eleni, I want you to realize that as you grow up, as you get older, that you may lose a lot of things. You may lose your car. You may lose a job. You may lose money, and the list could go on. And he said, but listen to me. Once you get yourself educated, because your education is one of the most valuable things you'll ever have, and the education doesn't have to be formal, as in going to college, but he talked about your education also. It could mean school, but also meaning your experience and jobs and knowledge that you acquire. Because he said those are things that no one can ever take from you. So you may lose the house, you may lose the money, you may lose the job, but because you still have that education, that knowledge, that experience, you can begin again. And that's when I started to realize he's telling me I'm a creator in my own life, that regardless of what goes on in this world, and we all know how insane it can be at times, we still have the power to create and begin again. And why not give ourselves infinite beginnings? There's infinite possibilities out there. And sure, everyone's, been leveled and everyone has a story, but understanding that you can begin again because you still have that experience and that knowledge, I think is key.
I think also too, realizing that when it comes to your consciousness, sometimes for you to achieve things, you have to shift that to a different state of consciousness, and that, the power of creation is not outside of you, it's within you. So you have to be able to channel that inside. And like you had mentioned earlier, it's really, there are circumstances out there, and I've seen examples of people who are disabled that are able to overcome and really achieve really amazing things, either in their personal life, their professional life. And, really seeing that is that shift of consciousness. I think that is not to say that, oh, I'm disabled, I cannot do this, I cannot achieve this. To see them do that, that they've totally have shifted their consciousness and kind of reinvented themselves, that they can do it.
Yes. And hello to, is it Emo? I apologize if I'm not pronouncing it right, but thank you so much for joining us live. We do appreciate you. And,
yes.
I work with executives, I work with entrepreneurs at all different stages of their business journey. And I'll often hear, when they know they have kind of that inkling to be, do, or have something else, but they often go to, but I'm okay. I'm okay. Things are okay. My life is okay. And believe me, there have been many moments, days, weeks where I would have been thrilled just to say, I'm okay. I'm okay. I can do this one more day. But for me personally, to always just be okay with okay is kind of like, settling, because if you keep having those desires to be, do, or have something more, and of course, again, if you're going through the thick of it with personal issues, health issues, professional issues, okay is a great day. But if I'm talking about the long game, long-term success, and if you have those desires, to go for it, because, and I'm sure you can relate, you've probably heard in your industry as well, I hear from countless people, yeah, I do want to up-level my career in corporate, or I really do want to grow my business, or I want to leave corporate and start my own business, but it's going to be too hard, or it's too late, or it'll cost too much money, or what if I make mistakes? There's always going to be a reason not to, but again, those people are still creating. They're just creating the life they don't want by letting the excuses overrule them. If we don't look for reasons to succeed, Lord knows there's going to be a ton of excuses to fail that'll fill in that gap.
Yeah, it will fill in the gap. When you really think about it, our lives, we are shaped and conditioned by our environment, those around us. We go through formal education. We learn from our parents, our other family members, those around us. And what ends up happening a lot of time, we tend to be conditioned in some, really not a purposeful conditioning, but sometimes we're conditioned not to trust our imaginations. And when you really think of creators, and when we think of the Thomas Edisons and some of the big historical people who have really invented amazing things, a lot of them have a wild, like Leonardo da Vinci, a wild imagination, and just to see exactly what they were able to do. Oh, here's it's like Eskimo.
Yeah.
We're glad to have you here.
Yes. Yeah.
So, when we come of age, we're told to put things of our childhood away and grow up. But really, we need to channel that inner child imagination. Because you
Yeah.
remember as a kid, you pretend to be an astronaut, or you were a doctor, or you were a professional, or you were whatever you were imagining. Open up that imagination, because that's really where the creativity, really part of it, lies.
Yeah. And when you see kids, young kids especially, embracing that creativity, there is nobody more focused to getting what they want, whether it's that toy, whether it's the dessert after dinner. They're like laser focused. I want it. I'm going to get it. So, they are strong creators, because life in general is always about growth and expansion. One of my favorite books, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, he talks about the impression of increase and says it really is fundamental for people to want more, whether it's more money, more opportunity, more friendships, more knowledge. It's normal for us to want more. It's literally the impression of increase. So when people deny themselves that, they might think, well, I don't have any control. I'm not creating in my life. Well, yes, you are. You're just creating in the direction you don't want to go in. I was talking to somebody that said, I'm so tired of hearing everybody talk about being a magnificent manifester. It's like, I can't manifest a damn thing. I said, actually, we manifest all the time. But again, the question is, where were your thoughts focused? Where were your beliefs focused? Because you could manifest something that has a negative impact in your life, or you could manifest something that has a positive impact. And to me, it's the exact same thing with creation. And so since that is fundamental, I want people to be purposeful and use their power and not just give it away. Don't quit without at least giving yourself a chance.
Yeah, don't quit. We were mentioning earlier, I was mentioning about water with Dr. Wayne Dwyer. The opposite of what he was saying too was that stuck water decays because it becomes stagnant. So you want to avoid becoming stagnant. So open up that creativity, because that's really a survival mechanism. It's for growing and for thriving. It can be used to overcome setbacks and mishaps and things like that as well.
Well, and you mentioned like stuck water, because I love that, because I sometimes ask people if they're stuck in their before. Are you stuck in your before? And they'll kind of look at me like, what the hell is she saying? Because I'll hear them say, I'll repeat back to them. They'll say things like, before I move forward, I need to have, X, Y, Z. Before I can make a change, I need to do fill in the blank. Before I can be happy, I need to have. So they've got themselves stuck in their before, as opposed to realizing it's the decision that always comes first. Always, always, always. The decision comes first, then you commit. Like Napoleon Hill says in Think and Grow Rich, you got to burn those ships. You have to take away all of your escape routes, because if you always want to have a safety net, once you claim that you want to go for a big goal, most likely it won't happen. So burn those ships. You decide, you commit, you take action. But I can't reinforce enough, in no way, shape, or form does this mean you do it alone. We all need support. I mean, I'm a coach and I get coached. We all need support. We all need mentors. So please don't ever think you need to do it alone. And Carl has just shared something with us.
Yeah, there is a challenge or potential dark side once you know in your soul you are creative. Finding the inspiration, having or putting too much pressure, and simultaneously not being a procrastinator. Like a musician, there needs to be inspiration to truly be creative. Look for the positive. Yes, don't quit on you.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. Because I don't know if you can relate, Jim, if you have friends or colleagues that they often look at mistakes, and granted, it might not be a minor mistake, it could be something big. But do you know people that look at mistakes as the absolute end of the road? Well, I tried this.
Absolutely.
Done. Game over. And
Yep.
to me, the mistake never has to be the end of the road. If you're willing to grow through what you go through, learn a lesson. I love using a GPS analogy. And the first thing you do is plug in your final destination. Much like the first thing would ask, one of the first things I would ask clients is, what's your ultimate goal? Whether it's financial, business, personal. And then we're going to reverse engineer to make it happen. So the GPS, you plug in your final destination, put the car in drive, you get your set of directions. So maybe you miss your exit or you make a wrong turn. I have yet to hear a GPS system in the world say, you're stuck, you're screwed, you got to stay here forever, game over. No, they say rerouting and recalculating because the GPS system still has the ability to begin again, just like we do. Why don't we give ourselves credit? We can begin again. So I made a mistake. So I regretted a decision. So that didn't work out. Begin again, because as my grandfather would say, you still have that knowledge and experience, and education. Even if you did lose the money, you can't ever lose those things. So to keep creating.
Yeah, always be creating, and the setbacks happen. I think when you look at a lot of successful business professionals, a lot of them really learn from mistakes and have setbacks, and that's a good thing because you better yourself where you fail, you learn, and you pick yourself up and you move forward. But if you kind of give up, it's a zero sum for everybody.
Yes, if you do give up. And one of the things I think about too for people is, I've learned to be very protective of my dreams, my goals and dreams. And I think you should be protective of them, whether they're professional or personal, like anything that has value for you. Because I was talking to an entrepreneur, she was so excited about launching her business and really putting herself out there and being of service and making money. And why shouldn't she be excited about that? You deserve to prosper, especially when you want to be of service and your goal is to help other people. And she had done her homework, had done her due diligence, had a great business plan, had all her ducks in a row. And then she shared her plans with some family members and friends who just immediately started shooting it down. That'll never work. How are you ever going to find clients? You think people are going to pay you? What if you lose the money you invested? On and on. And you could see her when she was recounting this with me, she was just like physically deflating. And I kept saying to her, because they were saying no, no, no to her dreams, her goals. And I said, your yes has to be bigger than their no.
Yeah.
And your yes has to be bigger than their no. Your dreams, your life, connect to why you want it. And there's going to always be naysayers, but you don't have to let them run space in your head.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing to overcome. We're so used to listening to others, and they're really giving us feedback, they're educating us, they're informing us. We want acceptance, and when you start to have that feedback loop like that, you've got to be able to process it and take it for what it's worth. And sometimes maybe even take it as a challenge. That you don't believe in me, you deny my ability, but I so truly believe in myself. I know I can do this, and I might fail, but I'm going to learn from that failure and do better.
Yeah, like we'd rather strike out than never step up to the plate.
Yeah, if you don't swing.
Right? So again, please be protective of your own goals and dreams. And again, don't forget, like, Jim was just saying as well, like you're going to learn from your mistakes. And even if something doesn't go right, to not forget you still have the power, the ability within you. And I thought of the other day when I was thinking about this wonderful live stream we were doing, that remember from The Wizard of Oz, and Glinda the Good Witch, and Dorothy was like freaking out. There's no way I can get back to Kansas on my own. I don't have the ability. It can't make it happen. And of course, obviously, we know she ended up being able to do that. But Glinda just looked at her and just said, my dear, you've had the power all along. So don't be so fearful of the mistake, of things not working out. learn what you can learn and move on to the next chapter. As you said, keep swinging, at least take a swing.
Yeah.
And your yes has to be bigger than their no. Yeah. Thank you. Because and it's not obviously with family members, especially, or friends that are close to you, not everybody's going to be on board with what you want to accomplish. You may have the growth mindset, they may not. So I'm not necessarily saying that you can never talk to them again, but you're going to have to be more protective about what you do share and be more committed. So your yes is bigger than their no. But I also want to add a little caveat in there. Sometimes we do have to release things of a lower nature to make room for things of a higher nature. So, and that's not always just releasing habits or processes. Sometimes we have to let someone go from our life. And I'm not saying run away from your family, but I'm saying if there is somebody in your life that is stagnant and is constantly trying to pull you down, and you have the growth mindset, I think of that crabs in a bucket theory, where, the crabs are put in the bucket and they're being taken to boil to become someone's lunch. One crab starts crawling out. Hey, there's no lid on this. I can escape. I can start over. The other crabs, instead of climbing out with it, glom onto it and pull it back down. So the people that are renting space in your head, if they're not encouraging you, and they don't have to agree with your goals, that's fine. But if they matter to you and you matter to them, then hopefully there would be some mutual support. And I know you would agree with that.
I definitely agree with that. And Carl says reinvention is a superpower, not a detriment to creativity.
Yes, so that's true. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Right. Absolutely. Especially, and we can reinvent ourselves at any point in time. And it doesn't matter about age. It doesn't matter about circumstance. In fact, I had just posted on Instagram. I found this wonderful story about this woman named Julia, who took up running competitively at age 100. She's now 107. So for anybody thinking it's too late to make any kind of change, I will share Julia with you. I mean, literally. And she was asked, is there anything you want people listening or watching you right now? As a little news clip, anything you want to share? And she said, just find something you're passionate about and keep doing it.
Yeah.
Simple and profound, but it makes so much sense.
So this Thursday on my Smash the Like on LinkedIn, I'm going to be featuring Dorothy Hoffman from Chicago at 104. She became the oldest tandem skydiver. And this was her second time. She did it when she was 101 and broke the Guinness World Record. At 103, someone else broke it. So she decided at 104, I need to take the record back again. So she did this jump. And she lives in an assisted living facility. She's 104. And I'm going to share the video of her doing her record-breaking tandem skydiving it was just like 2 weeks ago when she did this.
I love that. Oh, I'm so glad you shared that. Yay for her. Yay for Julia. Absolutely. I mean, that just inspires me. When you think, obviously none of us can stop that proverbial clock from ticking. But if you find something that still gets you excited, gets you fired up about your future, it makes all the difference in the world.
It's, to me, that's a creative mind for her to really be at that presence, at that point of her life to say, I want to jump out of an airplane. I'm 104. I want to jump out of an airplane. If I live to be 104, I don't know if one of the things I'm going to think about is jumping out of an airplane, but just amazing that drive, that creativity, because you don't expect to see stories like that when you open up the news.
No. And none of these ladies are stuck in there before. Yeah. I can't be happy until, or, before I move forward, I need to, fill in the blank. It's about just really owning your power. remember years ago when I was, teaching, I had a student teacher named Suzanne who was very committed to the kids. Without question, she wanted to make a huge impact and really positively influence them in their lives. And the students I worked with then were primarily emotionally impaired, identified as emotionally impaired. And they had a lot of issues behaviorally. And there was one day where, in Suzanne's words, they just chewed her up and spit her out. She completely lost control of the classroom and she was so frustrated. She wasn't angry at the kids, but she knew she wasn't supporting them or helping them that day. And after school was over, she sat down next to me and she could see how frustrated she was and she was getting emotional. And she said, Eleni, please tell me that it's going to get easier, that it's going to get better. And I sat down close to her and I just looked at her and I said, oh, sweetheart, the shit gets worse. And I said that intentionally and she started bawling. I said, listen to me. You can't control these outside circumstances, but you can get better at it. Don't wait for it to get better. You get better at it. And that's what's going to help you be a more powerful creator in your own life. That regardless of the challenges and obstacles that come, you're getting better at it. So you're going to be able to move through it and to continue on.
Yeah, speaking of power and getting through it and becoming better, Carl says, sounds like a power lifter. I can totally relate. No airplanes for me, but I will put 500 pounds on my back. He'll carry that airplane.
Yes. And it to me, being that creator is exciting, like creating opportunities, for yourself. And I have to share a quick story that I talked about in my book, but I created an opportunity to meet Dave Bing. And it not just because I'm a loyal Detroit sports fan. Of course, he was a Detroit Piston for many years, and he played for Syracuse in national championships before that. But he was also a mega successful businessman. Bing Steel was huge in Detroit. And I went to hear him speak at a business event. And at that point in time, I believe it was his company, Bing Steel, had made $600 million. So, not small potatoes, as they would say. And his speech was just phenomenal, very insightful and inspiring. And after the speech was over, they quickly ushered us out of the auditorium. They clearly said Mr. Bing would not be available to directly meet you individually. So I filed out with everybody else. And as I'm walking to my car, I was thinking of my brother Peter, who had passed away shortly before, and he was like Dave Bing's biggest fan. My brother Peter adored him, and I thought, man, Peter would love to meet him. So I turned around, I started to walk back towards the auditorium. I knew they were still in there, and I literally thought to myself, what's the worst thing that could happen? They could say, get this crazy bitch out of here, and I was going to be okay with that. So he had his entourage around him on the main floor, the stage, and I just marched right down. I kind of dodged in between a couple of the gentlemen, and I went right up to him and I introduced myself. And he said, well, what do you do, young lady? And at that point in time, I was working with secondary funding sources, helping businesses get money when the bank said no. And he said, do you have a card? And I said, yes, sir. Like, are you kidding me? He said, I'd love to have you come in and talk to one of my executive VPs. And of course, in my head, I'm thinking, sure, $600 million company. He's going to invite this little old single consultant to come in. The next day, I get a phone call. Hi, Eleni, this is Sally, Dave Bing's secretary. He'd like me to schedule an appointment to bring you in. I went in, I met with one of his VPs. It was just an amazing overall experience. And like you said, take a swing, step up to the plate. Because I literally didn't care if they threw me out of the auditorium. So keep creating. And again, it doesn't mean you have to do it alone. And I like to ask people, what would you create if you believed you had the ability to do so?
Yeah, very good. I love that story. It's always a great story. Before we end the broadcast, Eleni, one message I received was that, hey, know that you guys are up on the last chapter of the book. What's going to happen with Lessons of Life? Are you and Elaney going to continue doing this Monday live stream and really covering topics? And I think the answer is yes. Is that correct, Elaney?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect. We're gonna keep doing this.
Keep doing this. And I'd like to invite people, even though we didn't discuss this yet, Jim, because we always talk about the topics each week. But if any of our listeners, because we've had some wonderful people reach out to us and express their gratitude for us conducting this series, which I know we're both extremely grateful for as well. But if there is a specific topic or something you would like discovered, you would like us to, shine that spotlight on, please don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us.
That and also too, I think that we should open up the forum if we would have maybe some guests to come on from time to time, and we could do group chat on different topics that we're going to cover under Lessons for Life. So that adds a new dynamic to it, and it opens up the creativity.
Yes, see, I love it. Absolutely. We're always going to be creating no matter what. Jim, what is the best way for folks to connect with you directly?
So for me, the best way is through LinkedIn. You can also check out a lot of the content that I do, both in the digital transformation realm and also in my professional industry as well, related to coatings and corrosion topics.
Perfect. And I am very easy to find right here on LinkedIn as well. And you can also find me on all social media platforms at Eleni Anastas. My website's elenianastas.com. Please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions or comments. Both Jim and I love connecting. We promise to respond to everyone. And again, I'm so grateful to you, Jim, for suggesting that we do this series, because you know how passionate I was about getting my story out there to hopefully help and inspire others. And I'm excited about the opportunity to keep creating with you and hopefully some other folks that will join us on future live streams. Do you have any final words for our wonderful audience?
Well, please like and share this with other friends, family, and colleagues, because what we covered this evening is a really important topic, and I think it'll benefit a lot of people in your life.
Yes, and keep creating. Remember that GPS system. Mistakes don't mean the end of the road. You have the power within you to reroute, to recalculate. And I would love to hear what you want to create in your next chapter. Thank you, folks, for joining us. We will see you next Monday.